She called me one night late and she said, I've been thinking about a new project. And she said, I'm not really sure what you think of it. She said, I'm hoping you're going to like the idea. But she said, that'll be up to you. And she told me a little bit about it. And I was very quiet. And she said, so what do you think? And I said, you mean I don't have to deal with Cole Porter, the Gershwins, and Irving Berlin? I said, I'm on board, absolutely. Because, first of all, a period project always intrigues me. Secondly, someone who I didn't know anything about or their music. That's a whole new thing, being in the music business as long as I've been in it. Some new music and different things. And I thought, this will be fun. It'll be interesting. And I'll be able to do research because I don't know this person. And the first thing I read was she was the most important woman of the 12th century, along with Bernard of Clairvaux being the most important man of the 12th century. And I thought, she was more than a nun. One of the surprises for me was having been a set and costume designer in Cincinnati at the Creative Performing Arts School for ages. I had not picked up a pencil to design a costume in 25 years. And all of a sudden she said, well, we're going to need a costume, and we're going to need a set, and we're going to need this. And I went, oh, I can do that too. And I started doing the research on costuming. And I started doing the research on what kind of stuff would she have had, what's too new. And one of the things too, in the terminology, they would have never had that word then. Looking up specific words, because everybody wants to use a word and they don't think of it as only happening in the 16th century it came into vogue. It was an incredibly varied life, as opposed to now you go to see plays and they're not necessarily good stories, and chances are they're totally dysfunctional. And this is something that transcends all that. It's just a phenomenal story about a phenomenal person. And somebody said, yeah, but it's a nun and it's the Middle Ages. And I said, what's the difference of getting up and telling her story about her music and who she was than it is getting up and telling Cole Porter's story or the Gershwin story and hearing those same old tidbits that they tell in the same shows time after time and again. I said, at least you're getting new information and very different and interesting information. I was reading her medicine books last summer, getting ready to design the apothecary for the movie and find out all the Latin terms for the various weeds and plants and whatever were going to be in jars. And I was reading terminology of stuff, and she was saying, you know, and this will happen, and the liver or the kidneys will back up with sludge, and da-da-da-da-da, and I'm thinking, interesting word, sludge, you know. And there I am sitting in my doctor's office the 1st of September with pancreatic cancer, and he said, thank God your liver backed up with sludge, or we would not have found this. And I went, here we are in 2012, and they're using the same terminology she used, which had to have been translated from the Latin, and it probably said sludge. You know? Well, I sit back and I look at it, and I'm a rather radical politically and whatever, and I see the history that was going on around her, right smack dab in the middle of the beginning of the Crusades, 1,000 years later, totally repeating itself. We are right back, about to be in the middle of Christianity in a major war with Islam. And I think it's what, you know, the whole thing, history repeating itself, and, you know, and we don't remember necessarily from our mistakes and what have you, and it all repeats itself. And I think we're going right back into a very similar time, and we could use a Hildegard.